GTPD. GTPD killed someone, a student named Scout Schultz, in 2017. And Georgia Tech has swept it under the rug because
You
we're
stop
saying...
your facts right. Stop. Get your facts right before you make
It's-
Okay, you need to leave now.
When are you going to respond to us? Are you going to say something to us? Are you going to make a statement and publicly condemn the project that is Compton? Yes or no? Does us much
So
matter?
shall we continue? Or?
I think we just have to continue. Just
Yeah, yeah.
ignore her question. At this point, please,
Matter more, yes or no?
ma'am, may I please ask you to leave this show? This is not. You have already spoken for.
Is Georgia Tech going to stop funding the military complex, which is sending bombs to Gaza, which is killing innocent people every day? When are you going to stop with the military-industrial complex in Georgia Tech that is funding the Iron Dome that we know you have contributed to? When are you going to say enough is enough and stand up against this? When are we going to stop working with Raytheon? When are we going to stop with General Motors? When is enough enough? When?
All right.
I think you have said your
Yeah,
piece,
it's all right.
ma'am.
It's all right. Let's continue. Let's continue.
Are
Yeah.
you going to do something, yes or no?
All right. So we'll continue. I think this is some.
Stop Cop City! Stop Cop City!
This is
Stop Cop City!
this is actually this is a very interesting case study of
Okay, I think we'll have to move her out.
Stop Cop City!
Okay,
Say
if
something publicly!
you have a minute, to sit down, or please collect yourself. Otherwise, we will have to take you out for disrupting.
Stop Cop City! Stop Cop City!
Okay.
Are you going to say something publicly, yes or no?
thank you.
Very typical. Very typical. He knows what happened. He's trying to make this something that he doesn't know.
Well, I'm very glad that I had you as the first guest, President Cabrera.
Actually, that was the plan. That was the plan.
And you did mention that neither one of us could be seen in Midtown in those 30 years ago, and those of us who could be would not admit. So, all right,
Cop City!
all right.
El pueblo unido jamás será vencido!
That was well said.
I feel like I'm in Washington D.C. right now.
Yeah.
So let me change subjects on that, President Cabrera, for you.
No. This is actually a good case study, especially since I see students. This is very, very important because we at Georgia Tech, one of our values is to protect freedom of expression, and we take it very, very seriously. In fact, we have changed our policies to make sure that we eliminate any obstruction of freedom of expression. What you just saw here, which is the heckler's veto, that's actually one of the ways of which don't count as freedom of expression, which is actually interrupting someone else from expressing their points of view. So I think that's a very good sort of example in action. In this case, this is an event where we're having a conversation, and if you actually scream or interrupt an event that prevents someone from expressing their views, actually that is one of the exceptions to the freedom of expression, because you're violating someone else's. So anyway, interesting.
So I'm going to change subjects on you a little bit and
Please
ask you a
do.
different question. I recently attended one of your conversation with Cabrera series with the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. And there you asked him a question about how, you mentioned when internet came about in 1993 that Al Gore invented. And then now with ChatGPT in 2023, that there was an existential moment when you thought, oh gosh, things are about to change. I want from your lens and perhaps your conversations with other presidents around the country and the world for that matter, can you paint a picture for us? What will be the future with AI? What would it look like?
So I don't know what the future would look like, but I know that that future is going to be invented in places like Georgia Tech. And not only because in many ways many of our faculty members have contributed to creating all the technology that underlies all these the systems, but also because Georgia Tech is full of faculty leaders who are championing, who are experimenting with the technology already, and also because I have seen students in action and how they're using the technology. I am fully aware of all the issues and concerns that we face in all the problems that the technology can cause, but I remain hugely optimistic about the possibilities of this technology. I have my own accounts on Microsoft and my own accounts on ChatGPT. I keep experimenting with the tools, and every day I learn something new that these tools can do that is absolutely unbelievable. I think these tools are going to make the dream of a personalized education is going to become a reality. In many ways, it already is. I've seen students interact with GPT with a level of sophistication that is absolutely unbelievable, and that really is already providing that level of personalized instruction that we could only have dreamed of. It's incredible applications, very immediate applications for advising. I mean, you can already ask GPT, just the generic version, or go to Bing or go to some of the Microsoft tools and ask it to provide you advice on how to structure your curriculum at Georgia Tech, and it will give you a pretty decent answer. And now all those platforms are providing spaces where organizations like Georgia Tech can upload their own data and have the system not just be intelligent in general, but be very, very knowledgeable about what happens at an institution like ours. So all those ideas of personalized instruction, personalized education are now a reality. And I am absolutely incredibly jazzed about what's possible. I know it also causes fear. I mean, I talk to many of my colleagues of issues around cheating and all that. I mean, those are real concerns, and how we're going to. But I think the biggest area of concern is forcing many of our faculty members to rethink how they teach, how they assign homework or projects or even exams. So it's not going to be easy. That transition is not going to be easy. But I think the outcome is going to be incredibly it's super exciting for a place like ours.
So this is a much better answer, because last week or maybe 10 days ago, I was having breakfast with Tommy Holder, and he asked me the same question about what will it look like 30 years from now, and my answer was that the three of us will still sit together, maybe bring pack cards and play poker while our little robots are doing the side business, and we'll be talking about how good they are looking and not looking. And then he asked me an interesting follow-up question that I'm going to ask you now and see if you can handle that one. And he said, with all this, when you're starting to talk about how your robots will look, etc., are you thinking that there will be the haves and have-nots will have a widening gap? And how can universities and higher education play a role in reducing that potential widening of gap?
So I'm obsessed with that question, and I do believe that there's, to me, the biggest fear I have is that widening of gaps between the haves and have-nots through our history, and have extracted all the patterns and made all that very predictable, right? So things that until now we considered as creative, what we realize is they're not that creative. ChatGPT can produce things that look creative just by pulling from what has been written till now. So it's going to create a huge premium on creativity. And now creativity is you're going to have to basically earn your keep if you want to add value, because everything that has already been written or said is already available for free, almost. So education is going to have to help us figure out how a young professional is going to add value on top of that. If you somehow don't get there, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So a lot of people, a lot of students that I talked to wanted me to ask you a lot about leadership, since you have been at the helm of so many institutions. So I'm going to ask you some questions on leadership, but I also know that there may be some people in the audience who might want to ask questions, and if you do want to ask questions, I have so many that you don't have to, but in case you do want to, you may want to line up at the mic, and if I see you at a good time, and I'll call on you to be able to ask a question. But let me ask you, I've seen your energy on campus. you have been at the helm, you have gone through COVID times and you're still being president and during those difficult times, etc. What keeps you going? Why are you not complacent at some point when everything is going well, tech is doing so well? How do you sustain the energy as a leader?
Well, when I'm running low of energy, I just call you and get a, and no.
God help you.
No, I think everybody who's in a position of leadership goes through that, right? I mean, where do you get your source of inspiration? Where do you get your energy to keep going? I know many people in this room go through that. And ultimately, I think what keeps you going is a sense of mission and commitment to mission. And do you believe in what you're doing? Does it excite you? Can you get up in the morning? Because in any position of leadership, you also go through tremendous moments of stress, tremendous moments of questioning what you're doing. If you're not fully committed and excited about what it is your organization does, you're kind of toast. I mean, there's no other way around it. So I think that in my life, there are practical ways in which I get reconnected with mission. One of them is most of my meetings, as my colleagues know, they don't happen in my office, they happen outside. And that's an intentional practice that over the years I've developed, and it works for me. It's not just because I love our campus, it is a beautiful campus, and because I would much rather be walking. The conversations that I have with my colleagues are different, but those conversations are grounded in mission. Mm-hmm. You're having a conversation about students, and you're running into students and occasionally chatting with one of them. You're talking about an issue that has to do with the faculty, and right there you have a couple of faculty that may stop and chat. You're talking about a building, and we just go see the building. Mm-hmm. Or we see the construction site. We don't have those conversations. So that is a small thing, small practice, but just by having that grounding, and this is what we do. Get out of your office and try. In other businesses, that might mean have the CEO go see clients. Mm-hmm. Don't stay in headquarters. Go see the product, your clients. Think that to me is one of the most energizing things that I get to do.
So it has nothing to do with what you're hiding in your office space. People are outside meetings for different reasons. Now I get it. But let me ask you a different question that I've asked other leaders, and I think it's very interesting to hear different answers, and I want to ask you that question too. Generally, I've heard leaders try to surround themselves with great leaders themselves, right? And then the decision making becomes a little bit easier because the others are taking care of most of the decisions. And yet, some decisions rise up to your level, because the others are not able to make those decisions. They are complicated decisions. How do you approach a complex question and then be in a position to decide quickly after so many of your team leaders are not able to solve that problem?
I think sometimes we have this idealized vision of leaders in these sort of heroic moments where there's like impossible decisions that you have to make. And occasionally those things do happen. Occasionally you do confront a decision, a go, no go, go left, go right, which nobody else can make but you. But I would say that, 95%, 99% of the decisions that we make, I don't have to make, because I try to constantly build a team of extraordinary people who know a lot more than I do about their particular topic. I think my role is more of maybe almost like a preacher, of remind everybody what the mission is, remind everybody what our values are, empowering people, engage in constructive conversations, and hope that most of the decisions don't end up like the ones you say, but eventually they do. And eventually they are in any leadership position. There will be tough decisions that only you can make, and just hope that at that time you're in a position to make the right call. I try to be grounded. I ground myself in mission and values, because when it comes to those difficult decisions, that's the only framework that you have.
You mentioned mission a lot. Let me ask you this question before I go to the question there. You talk about a mission a lot. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are. There are universities, higher education, it is changing so much. What are universities getting right on their mission, and what are universities not getting right for their mission?
So I guess that's what we do for a living, is to question what we do and try to do better, right? So I'll tell you a few of the things that we're working on that I think maybe universities have been rightfully criticized. One of the things we're trying to be better at Georgia Tech, which is a very timely issue, a very complex issue, one that has cost the job to leaders of some of our top institutions, is how do we deliver on two aspects of our mission that are crucial? How do we create environments that are really diverse, of people who, diverse not just in gender, or orientation, or ethnicity, but also in ideas? How do you bring a population where everybody feels welcome, and at the same time you create an environment of freedom of expression, where everybody can express their views? Because if you think about it, universities need both to work, right? And right now it looks like the divisiveness in our political environment forces us, no, you either have to believe in the power of diversity or you have to believe in the power of freedom of expression. I would contend that you need both. In fact, our values call out both, because we need both. Suppose you have an environment that is incredibly diverse. We have people from every background, every point of view, but there is no freedom of expression. People are fearful of expressing their views for fear of being, I don't know, canceled or ostracized or whatever. Then all that diversity is useless in terms of helping us learn and grow. The opposite is also true. If you have a place where everybody's free to say what they believe, but everybody agrees to begin with, universities have to be places where we come together to have conversations, to question our beliefs, to learn from the other. The other could be a faculty member, the other could be another student, could be anybody else. So I think having that kind of commitment to those core values of not just building diversity, but creating environments where we welcome that diversity, where we even people who we disagree with, no, we want to hear from you. Come on, let's have a conversation. I think that's something that we need to keep reminding ourselves. There are other practical issues that I think we have an opportunity to get right, and I love that Georgia Tech is ahead in that. We even just had a faculty discussion an hour ago, very interesting, about our plan to establish a new College of Lifetime Learning. We want to make sure that Georgia Tech is not just serving traditional students, that we're not just a place where you go when you're 18 or you go maybe a few years later to get your graduate degree, but that we are a place where you can go for your learning throughout your life, where you're changing careers, or all of a sudden there's new technology hitting your field like AI, and you need to study it. We want Georgia Tech to be that place that you go to, that is not just one point of entry and one point of exit. And I guess as we said, Georgia Tech, you get in and you get out. We use those terms. But it's a place that you keep coming back to. And that means that we need to be super smart, super flexible, that we need to leverage technology to offer that kind of learning. So that's also a change that is long due for higher education. And I love that Georgia Tech is, here's most universities that are of the stature of Georgia Tech. We're one of the top research universities in the nation. We're the #1 research university in research expenditures without a medical school. We're the top, and yet we don't give up our mission of having impact in people no matter where their state of. That's really unusual of a university that allows itself, that embraces that mission, and I think we're in a great place to keep leading that change.
Great. Let's take a question from the audience. Please state your name and get a short question in there. You may have to turn it on.
There you go.
Yeah, it's on.
All right. So my name is Nolan. I'm a second-year undergrad in Scheller. So I know you're from Spain. So I wanted to ask a question. How has being in a different country and having also spent significant time in the U.S. How has that helped your the vision you have for Georgia Tech? How you go about your decision making? How do you think that experience has helped your overall perspective as a leader?
So in many ways. I mean, I guess each of our journeys define who we are and how we look at the world. But I think the fact that I have lived and worked and raised a family in different cultures and different settings that has put me in front of people who look at the world in many different ways, different points of view. It has helped me embrace what differences of perspective can provide you for your own learning and for your own growth. I think one of the many things that attracted me to Georgia Tech and that I still love about Georgia Tech is how open it is to people who are different. Think about this. One of the best universities in this country hired a Spaniard as a president and an Indian as a dean of business and a Cuban to run the foundation. And I can keep going throughout the list. This is amazing. I mean, to have an environment that welcomes you, that embraces you with all your differences, and not despite of those differences, but that embraces you is like, no, we want you, bring your full self and bring it on and put it to work, because that's how we learn. I think that appreciation, I think it would have been a lot harder to reach that appreciation without that personal journey.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me turn to the questions from some of the questions that I get from alumni and students, and I'm going to try them on you. How can alumni help beyond what they are doing already in terms of philanthropy and other ways? How can alumni help? What is your answer for them?
So what students may not realize yet, but students are aware that they see names on buildings and they may wonder who those people are. What I can tell students is nothing that has happened at Georgia Tech, nothing major that has happened at Georgia Tech, none of the big ideas that we're working on would be possible without the full engagement of our unbelievable alumni. And I mean it. I mean, I give you the example of how Midtown was transformed. That was not just Georgia Tech administration, faculty in isolation. That was the result of a partnership with leading alumni serving on the Georgia Tech Foundation. What we've been doing on Science Square, the same thing. We're using a different affiliate, but also populated with alumni. So it's not just the money, and the money is important, by the way. The money is very important. We would not have Scheller, we would not have the new towers that we're building in the heart of Tech Square. We would not have many of the labs, of the resources that we have. We would not have the maker spaces. But in a way, the financial engagement happens when alumni who believe, first of all, who had the personal experience of having their lives transformed by this place, who have engaged with Georgia Tech, who believe in the mission of Georgia Tech, and at some point when they're successful, they realize, Georgia Tech can help me have an even bigger impact with my philanthropy. So it is hard to exaggerate how absolutely crucial our alumni are for everything we accomplish.
Thank you. So let's take the question. Please state your name and the question, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Name is Grayson Stewart, was a undergraduate Scheller alum in 22. Thank you both for taking time out of your evening to be here. I was really excited to hear about the College of Lifelong Learning initiative you're thinking about starting here. I was curious about, have you considered the idea of doing a how to learn class? Like these GPT tools, how speed read, like the basics that people often assume that we know coming in undergrad, and some people may know or may not know. I wish I was one of those people that did know. And have that be a part of the core curriculum, because I think that would be a massive benefit to get people started early on that lifelong learning trajectory.
I think you ought to take that one. Because, no, we were just commenting earlier that indeed, when any of us look back at our experience at Georgia Tech and you try to figure out what it is you got out of Georgia Tech. Well, I did get a wife and the credentials. But what in terms of your own learning, what is it that you got out of Georgia Tech? You may never use differential equations in your job. You may never use many of the things that you learn in your classes, and yet through that whole experience, the biggest thing you walked out with was learning how to learn and learning how to find information, and that's why we're trying to do our best to make sure that we are quick at incorporating all these new tools, just like we incorporated the internet very early on. How do we incorporate AI, data analytics? How do we give you the tools? Even if you're acquiring them, I don't know that there will ever be a class called Learning to Learn. That's an interesting, intriguing idea. But we would be doing a disservice if throughout the other classes that you take, you don't develop those skills. But what do you think?
So I think you gave a perfect answer, because the Scheller ambassadors asked me this question 2 weeks ago, and that's what I told them. And in fact, I used this example of differential equations because I have forgotten how to solve differential equations at this point. So learning how to learn, and the only other thing I would add there is that I think given where we are and what values tech can be, there is to also create the entrepreneurial spirit. So, just having the ability to be able to have that entrepreneurial spirit and learning how to learn is the two takeaways that are very important. But thank you for that answer, and it was the correct answer because I had the same one. So
Thank you both.
let's take one last question from the audience, please.
Yes, Javier Soto, Evening MBA. Dr. Cabrera, many years from now, when you're ready to move on to your next chapter, what kind of legacy would you like to have left behind at Tech?
So, interesting question. I look at these jobs more in terms of a relay race. I'm lucky to succeed two presidents of Georgia Tech that I admire a great deal, that I consider very good friends of mine. I respect them tremendously, and I saw how one of them handed the baton to the next. I mentioned how Wayne, for example, had the big vision of what Midtown could be, but by the time he left to go to the Smithsonian, most of that vision remained unfulfilled. And it was during Bud Peterson that a lot of that became a reality. And I am just, the way I look at my own role is when I got the baton, first of all, try my best not to drop it. I'm running as fast as I possibly can, and I hope that when it's time to move on, I will pass it on and have someone keep going and make us all proud. So I think of it in those terms more than in legacy terms, really.
One quick question.
Did I avoid it? Okay. Did I avoid the question?
Atletico or Real?
Real Madrid. No, and that needs to be made very clear. I mean, the data. I'm serious. Don't let anybody fool you. I mean, the data indicates Real Madrid has won Champions League more than anybody else in the history of the sport. Come on.
Well, thank you very much, President Cabrera. I'm going to ask you one last question for this session. What do you do for fun? I know you mentioned you are running as fast. I can also say, other than your bicycle riding at 1,000 miles an hour next to a walking dean to scare him, what else do you do for fun?
Did I do that? I'll tell you. So this is the sort of the job that I have is incredibly demanding, but incredibly interesting. So incredibly demanding. It kind of absorbs your life. This is not like, oh, time is up, I'm going home and that's it. So the job is everywhere. And this idea, how do you balance? There's no balance. I mean, my hobby is Georgia Tech, my job is Georgia Tech, my dreams are. But the great thing is I spend a lot of time with a lot of interesting people, like alumni who do incredible things. So I'm now begun to enjoy, actually, if you chase our alumni around to remind them where they went to school and that they might want to share some of their wealth with you. You chase them into very interesting places. So I'm getting to do a lot of fun things with them. But no, seriously, in my day-to-day, I try to integrate fun things into my day. So I ride my bicycle, because it's it gets you a lot faster in Midtown and campus than anything. But also it gives me the moment of zen. I go through Piedmont Park, it's great. I've started swimming. And I swim with a couple of faculty members every morning. I'm still very slow, but I'm swimming. But I'm swimming because I agreed with an alum who convinced me somehow to do this relay race in Lake Tahoe in July. So just by chasing your alumni, you end up doing all sorts of very interesting things.
Well, thank you very much, President Cabrera. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
I also want to thank all of you who joined us today, and I certainly want to invite you to the next session. And our next session of Tech Talks Business is on March 4th at 4 p.m., and our guest will be Laurel Hurd, President and CEO of Interface Incorporation. This session will be part of Georgia Tech's UN Sustainable Development Goals Action and Awareness Week, and hosted in partnership with the Ray C. Anderson Center for Sustainable Business. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.